once upon in 2019, we started, so we actually built a set in the studio, and we started just talking to our faves, our just legends, people that, not to whine anybody, but just people that we actually follow. And what usually happened was we invite a guest over. Sometimes they'll form, they have 30 minutes to stay. But by the time they sit down and we start talking about their lives from beginning, 1 hour, 2 hours, they're still talking. Okay, so it was very laid back. No gossip, no assay, nothing. It was literally just tell us the stories that we don't know. That's all. Okay, so you can imagine how the reason why we're bummed out now is because I don't know how much time we're going to be able to get to start from, because we like to start from the scratch, from before. So, of course, in your case, what we want to know is before Do Me, before Psquare, which is where most of us heard Waje's voice the first time. Okay, so yeah, that's literally.
And that connection, that link up with Psquare to get to Do Me.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Got you. So should I start?
Not from the womb.
But yes.
Yeah, we're good.
I should start from the womb.
No, not from the womb. Like all those people that say, so in my womb I started singing. No. You can fast forward a bit.
Okay, so, well, I'll honestly say that my journey started when I was 19. I had just, of course, I had already given birth to my daughter. So I moved to Enugu where my mom's older sister stayed. I grew up in Benin. And of course, naturally, because I went to a Christian school, my mom was a teacher in the school, all that stigma that came with a girl that sings in church, that's very close to Idahosa, that was on scholarship, now gets pregnant, and she's young, blah, blah. So I told my mom I couldn't stay, because what happened at the time was my friends used to come and look to come and check if this gist they heard was true. Just that one time, I remember I even traveled, and some of them came in a bus. Then they can't check whether the thing where they hear about Vivian, because my English name is Vivian, if not true. But
hey, why you don't get Bele?
That kind of thing. Say hi. You ask Timaya, I know my nickname for Bini after I don't get Bele. So now Vivian Bele, people they call me. So when they want differentiate Vivian from the other Vivian, now Vivian Bele.
Vivian Bele.
Yes, now if you know me, rich Bini, and sometimes when me and Timaya they joke now, Timaya was a Vivian Bele because into here the genes, you understand? So I moved to Enugu. I started staying with my mom's older sister, and she was a member of a church called Amon Chapel. Amon Chapel was a very young church at the time, and I hadn't gotten into school yet. I was still writing JAM and trying to figure out whether I would go to UNN or ASUT. I got an admission to study English in ASUT, but I didn't want to go to ASUT. So I told my mom's sister that I wasn't doing, that I either wanted to go to UNEC, or that's University of Nigeria Nsukka campus, or Enugu campus, or UNN, the Nigerian campus. So I still had to stay back at home. And while away, I became the secretary of the church. My salary at the time was 1,000 naira. So one of those Sundays where I was singing in church, I met my mentor, Chris Madibuko. He is an Igbo guy that's married to an amazing woman, Auntie Teresa. Their daughter is, I think, a year older than my daughter. So at the time, I had finished singing special number in church, and he came to me. He lived in Brooklyn, so he was more exposed than most of the people in church, because this church, now small church, all those uncompleted building type of, we have roof, white chair type of building. Mm-hmm. So there was this uncle coming. I think Uncle Chris's car then was Volvo, if I remember, big Benz. I can't even remember, 190, one of those cars. The guy, buff guy would come to church. So, all of us used to greet him with a certain type of reverence. And he called me, with his accent. He had American accent. Brooklyn in the house now. Say, so how you doing? Don't you think you should take this music thing to another level? And I gave him speech. I said, no, God gave me these gifts. I don't think God wants me to use this gift to make money. He gave me this gift so I can bless the nations. The man looked at me, said, I hear you. But I'm going to be honest with you. I have never heard anybody sound, and remember that this man is exposed. So I've never heard anyone that sounds like you in my years of being, someone who loves music, living in America and all of that. So I really want you to work with me. He was starting a company at the time called Dome Records. So he persuaded me, told me to think about it, told me to talk to my auntie, my mom, blah, blah. I was like, well, this man, all this English they are speaking is not for me, But over time, I got close to the family and I realized that he actually truly believed in me. And many times, what you really need is someone to believe in you. So what he did was he started exposing me to, and relaxing in the studio. So sometimes it wasn't even me that was working because he had 2 other artists. There was Bionic, So when those ones are recording, I'll just go sit down. All of us will buy suya, and these guys will be spitting. These were the young boys. These were the hot boys who knew how to rap in Enugu. You see what ill-bleeds them, that era, that generation, So I would just go to the studio, I would sit down, I'll be listening to these guys, I'll be like, man, and I saw studio like they be, and I was enjoying it. But I still didn't think that I could do it. So I remember the first time he made me write a song. There's a song I really love, Beyonce's song, right? And I wrote a version of the song. Like I got inspired and wrote my own version, but it didn't really sound like hers. So it was called Breathless. And I can't remember her own now. Wait. Yeah, hers is yeah, I think. I can say yes. I don't know if you know it. Yeah, from her first album. Yeah. So I had my own called Breathless, right? And I sang it for Uncle Chris. Uncle Chris was like, you know what? We're going into the studio. We're doing this, we're that, all the, And he kept pushing me. And that's how I got signed to Dome Records. So on that Dome Records, we had plans, right? But I don't think that at the time, Enugu was really ready for someone like me. And I also don't think that a lot of people understood my gifts, because there were times when we'll go somewhere, maybe we're singing a cappella, and you just see people's faces like, oh my God, who is this girl, where is she from, blah blah blah, that day end. Do you understand? There was really never any grand scheme of things. Do you get? So for Uncle Chris, it was always a situation of, okay, the right time, we'll do it the right time. And one day I was in his living room. We were watching Channel O, because that was the thing at the time. We were watching Channel O, and I heard Omogemi. I told Uncle Chris, I said, Uncle Chris, I can do a cover of this song. He said, then people weren't doing covers in this country. But I was like, I can do a cover. He now said, how? I said, I want to respond to them. So he said, okay, let's go into the studio. Let's do it. I remember very well, it was Jay Martins that produced the cover. So we got into the studio. We did my own version, which is Bobomi. Because of Uncle Chris's relationship, we sent it to the media people in Enugu. Radio was playing it a lot. And then there was a concert at PK Gardens. PK Gardens used to be like was the Freedom Park, or the Okunola Park that we had in Enugu. And Psquare was performing. I had like a single or 1 or 2 songs that already I had put out on radio that only people in Enugu knew much more about. So, of course, naturally, I was going to perform. And then Uncle Chris came up with the idea of us doing my own version of Omogemi. So we had planned, Psquare and I had planned that they would do their version, because that was the first time I was meeting them. They would do their version, and then they'll call me on stage and I'll do my version. And really, that's how the relationship started, So we did it, and everybody was, people went crazy over it. And they're like, wow. But the thing is, not everybody knew me that time. Still, I was still that faceless girl and I had school, because by then I had gotten an admission into Nsukka to study social work, So I had school, I had my baby, and so there were a lot of things at the time that, kind of took my attention. So I wasn't so sure how well I could focus in music. Fast forward down the years, we came to Lagos. Some Records, right, was having a show. And Uncle Chris had told, because he has very great relationship with Olisa and Uncle Obi Asika. So he told them that, he had this young girl that was amazing, and he wanted them to listen to, sense them the materials, the things that we had done. They said, okay, but come. I came on stage. We traveled down to Lagos. I remember that performance. I remember very well. I was just trying to be. I really loved Ciara, right? And because I could dance. I had the body for whatever I wanted to wear. So in my mind, I was like, that's the person I'll tailor my career to, So I had dancers. I was on stage. I had this white top that his wife had given me, and I cut it into like a bra top so that my six packs and everything will show. White jeans, and I had a single called Claire. So the song is Claire, make room for me. Claire, I'm Waje and I'm born to win. Claire, I'm represented down for real. Ooh, that was the chorus, So when they called me on stage, I did that, and then I did my version. Now they laughed me. But that laugh cannot shock you. So and I did my version of Omogemi, and I was also, we were actually shocked at how people kind of received me. Everybody was like, oh my God, and really that's how the journey started for me. While all of that was happening, it was all of this is not in a short time, right? By this time, okay, so that trip actually to Lagos, where I performed my single, and Omogemi, that Bobomi, my version, was where Psquare and I now decided that we were going to do a single. So a lot of people think that I was the vocal, the lady who sang in Busybody. I am not that person. If you hear Seth, you go, yeah, for the voice, it not be me. But Nigeria, anyway, if they say make all of us turn right, everybody go turn right. I never backed up for Psquare. Never ever have I gone on stage and sang backup for any artist, actually. The only time I backed up for someone, and it was never on stage, it was in the studio, is Magic Fashek when I was in JS3. And I didn't even know he was the one we were going to work for, because we were three girls, Kalome, Rosé, and I, and we were like the vocal ladies in our school. So one day after school, we went and we did backup for an artist called Messenger as well. He was working in the same studio that Magic. This was years ago, So it wasn't that situation of where you say a backup. It was usually one mic, so all of you that rehearsed your parts and then you sing to the mic, and we moved on with our lives, literally, So that night we hooked up. Psquare and I, Jude, the manager, were in the studio. They sang the song "Do Me For Me." Uncle Chris loved it. I loved it, and for some reason, I just couldn't perform because I'm this girl who grew up listening to R&B. I didn't know the commercial side of Nigerian music. I listened to Evie Edna and Onyeko Wenu, but I listened to them for my listening pleasure. I didn't listen to them to sound like them, if that makes any sense. So when I was singing, I said, do me, you guys see the Peter, it's not even Peter and Paul, it's Jude. Jude will ask me, say, excuse, what are you singing? I said, I'm singing, giving them, Lauryn Hill and, Beyonce, Whitney Houston. And like,
harmonizing.
Sing this song with vigor, vim, and so they have stressed me. Our voice won't. I remember that at the time, you see, we are enjoying now as musicians. Now you have softwares that correct your flat notes. Then there was nothing to correct it. You are either singing it properly or you go home. So at the time, there were no corrections or anything. There were, but it was hard work, and that's not how we were trained. So you just had to get it right. And I'll sing, and maybe the tempo, because I have to sit on the beats, and me, I'm used to singing ballads, and this one, the beat is. Then, so at some point, I got irritated, and I told Uncle Chris, I said everybody should leave. So I think he understood what I was going through. So he kind of distracted them. That night, everybody was eating suya. This was like 1 a.m. or so in the morning. I can't even remember, but it was pretty late, and everybody was eating say and I just went, "Boy, you know, say talk is cheap. I know you are tempted to roll with me. Me, I not be the busybody where you sing what a man can do, and woman can do." So by the time, you know, so
that's everybody shout,
you know, so when we finished voicing the song, I didn't even know the power of that song. So I moved back to Enugu. Things changed in my life. I now had to go stay in Onitsha in my grandma's house for a bit. So that was the worst part of my journey, because I was no longer working in the studio as much as I wanted to. But I really didn't have a job. So I have a friend, Ijoma Uzodima, who both of us, what we used to do there was to fry chin-chin. So we just, you know, I'll go to her house, we'll stand from morning till night. We couldn't afford to get other people to join us. So it was just between me and her. We'll fry chin-chin, cut it, 50 kg flour. Me and her will finish it. On back, they pay us, go do them, you know. And then we started selling chin-chin, and small. I had friends. I had a friend, Chinelo, that her mom was the magistrate, was a judge. So, you know, her mom would always order our chin-chin. We had people, sometimes we had friends in main markets, you know, Uncle Okwi. We had great people that would just order one chin-chin from us. So not say, that week we are sorted, you know, that sort of thing. So that kind of took my attention. And then I was so invested in my church. I was invested in Christ Embassy. I was working in Christ Embassy. Music was now just forgotten. Until at some point, I was hearing Do Me. And you can imagine where you're hearing the number one song. Yes, go ahead.
Tell me you named it Vivian. Was it named Vivian Chin-Chin?
No, it wasn't even. It had nothing to do, because the idea of the chin-chin came from. It had no name. We just used to put it in. We had this container, right? You know, this plastic container now that some people put sugar in their house. We used to put it there. So the 600 naira quantity was about this size, you know. And it was actually kudos to Ijoma, because it was really her idea, you know. And
because I would have loved for Waje, for Vivian Chin-Chin to delete Vivian Bele as a nickname.
You know, so we now started frying this chin-chin. I was always spending time in Ijoma's house. I was staying in Ijoma's house from Monday till, you know. But then I would listen to people play Do Me. And at the time, okay, so even before it became a hit, right? Psquare had called me or rather had called Uncle Chris and told Uncle Chris, because they didn't have my number. They called Uncle Chris, tell Uncle Chris that we were traveling to South Africa in 2 weeks. Uncle Chris now called me, said, "Do you have a passport?" I couldn't understand. I said, "This now, I think we live for Enugu, especially for Benin, live for Enugu." So, you know, just can't dream. We dream, but we not dream and say go near. You understand?
Yeah, so, not dream and confront.
Do you understand? We're not dream and confront. So that question of do you have a passport, you go ask person where, you know, they don't already they understand say international passport for that passport photograph, that passport will take put for cost file.
Which kind of passport?
Which kind of passport? You understand? So I told him, I said, "No, I don't." And he was not like, "No, man, that we need to go to SF in 2 weeks to do the video. What are we going to do? Blah, blah, blah." And then, well, I don't know what happened, but we just couldn't make it, right? And I think that one of the issues, or rather, and you know, over time, I have thought about it, and I have actually blamed myself, because I wasn't a child, right? And I was part of this generation of Nigerians that believe that the minute you are working with someone, they have to make sure that all the boxes, that you are crossing the T's and dotting the I's, right? So which should actually be the case in an ideal world, but based on your hunger for success, are you not going to say because they didn't do, you will not ask questions. You understand what I mean? So at the time, I should have asked questions like, okay, how do I get a passport? Who do I get from? Where do I get it from? But I just kind of assumed that, you know, my record label will sort all of that out. And before I knew what was happening, Dumi was on TV. Now, when he was on TV, it was very difficult to tell people that I was the one that sang the song. Because there was a girl in the video that her energy self, if for
yeah, she can't be like way, that girl with her top when you reach here. Yeah, I remember that girl.
Thank you. When you look at that girl, you in your mind you say that's the girl that sang the song. So it wasn't possible because I was living in 26 Francis Street. If you turn here, it's Main Market. If you turn here, it's Carpenter's Street. You know, then you now say, and my Igbo name.
Let me sing this song.
You understand? You say, keep quiet there. Who is you do me? So it was very frustrating because, you know, I was looking at this thing and I was dreaming and I was seeing all the Michael Jackson moves where they would travel and girls would be fainting. And in my mind, I was like, if I follow these people now, some people they faint for me, but at the Francis Street, they look. But one of those times, somebody found out about me. And I don't know if you know him, Obama.
Yeah. Obama. Really my 3.7. Former we all know him.
So I don't know how he did it, whether it was him alone or through someone, I really don't know. But he put my name down for MTV-based advance warning. That was years ago, and it was in the first, like MI, Pipe, Durella, Kaha, Kel. There were a lot of musicians at the time, and the whole point of advance warning was they will pair artist versus artist, and then people will vote. This is me that nobody knew. The only thing that people knew about me was, at that time, a lot of people still did not know that I was the voice in Dumi. Do you understand? So my label had recorded, we had produced a song called Somewhere, and my label called me back to Enugu. We did we did a video for it. We put it out and people liked it, you know. So that had already started getting me some sort of recognition, you know, around, you know, places where entertainment was a big deal. You know, I remember my first show, Uncle Chris called me and told me, man, it was it, what's the name of that telecoms company again? No. What be like Airtel? Be like saying that they can't turn to Airtel.
Zen.
No, before Zen, whether it was E or something.
Econet.
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 Thank you very much. Thank you. You know, so they had, I think it was an end of year party. I mean, it was his day. I can't even remember. That's for you to know. They had an end of year party in the East. The money that came to me by the time we finished sharing formula was 90K. Do you know what 90K was to me at the time? Oh boy, the way I did breakdance, slow motion, moonwalk, everything, you know. So advance warning, we now started getting people to, because I remember I used to go to internet centers, or what they called those things that time, when you don't have cyber cafe, to solicit for votes, you know, through my space or Facebook chat, go and telling people that they should please vote for me. Then one day somebody came out and gave me the insult of my life because they paired me and Pipe. The person now said, vote for who? Do you know who Pipe is? Do you know who are you? Cost me. Now I first understand social media.
Bullying.
That was my
bullying, trolling.
That was my first encounter. The guy cost me. But funny enough, when it came down to the votes, I was still voted into the next round, which was where we now actually had to come to the center in itself, you know, for another round of the competition. And this other round, we're now supposed to sing. I remember, who was the judge? of that one. I know Obi Asika was at the finals. I know Munachi Abe was at the finals. She was a judge at the finals. Obi Asika was a judge at the final. I can't remember, but this was not. This was before the final, right? And I sang somewhere. Hey, you do not understand when they say your heart is doing you. Boom, 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 boom. My heart was pounding. We were over 10 musicians. Some people do know, some you don't know. And see this girl in there's one red dress I bought in the main market that time. Alternate red dress like this. And we now say, yeah, it's time for us to sing. We now did. I finished singing my own part. They called 3 people. Called Kaha, called Durella, then called my name. I almost died. I thought the ground was going to open. When I heard my name, I was still standing looking at them like, is it me you people called? Because I wasn't sure that I was one. And the 3 of us were supposed to travel to America. So that was the first time to South Africa. That was the first time I ever left the shores of Nigeria. But because of our past experience with Dumi, Uncle Chris made sure that I had a passport. Just
don't get passports now. Don't get passports.
I don't get passports, my brother. Now we can't go South Africa. They put us in a house. In South Africa was like London in Paris to me, man. You know, they put us in a house. Our house master was called Ricky. Ricky was Eminem's A&R. We had with Wyclef. We went to see Wyclef at his concert. We had a one-on-one conversation with him. I don't know if you know David Tule. I can't pronounce his name, but he's a South African designer that has gone international. He's one of the biggest African designers at the moment. He was the one that came to teach us about style and fashion, right? And that was the first time I met Cobams. Cobams was our music teacher. So Cobams came to teach us about writing and melody and all this knowledge that we were learning in the boot camp. We were supposed to write 2 songs for the finals, sing our songs, and then they would choose a winner. So it was tough. Those 2 weeks, we had to do a lot of things, you know. But what it helped me do was, first of all, I bonded with Kaha and Durella, who understood the commercial space. Because remember that I really didn't know that space. I was sort of like a ballad singer who just really didn't, you know, understand that space, you know. So I bonded with them and started learning from them. But outside that, it was just the experience of it. I remember when we went to, it was MTN that sponsored Wyclef's show, and we had VIP tickets to MTN, to the concert, to Wyclef's concert. And Wyclef said, I have some friends from Nigeria, they're amazing. And he handed me the mic. Oh boy, I give them Mariah Carey, Whitney, and Beyonce on top. They can't take Lauren Heath. Do I see? By the time I finished with freestyle and vocal dexterity, oh my God, scream! Forget that thing. I tell them I go weird, don't give me the mic, and I will not give you a nightingale version of myself. By the time I was done, but these were the experiences that made it life-changing for me, right? Fast forward when we're not supposed to leave South Africa now and come down to Nigeria. Final day. First of all, the price was 7 million naira, so I'd already planned that money. Me and my pikin, we don't already discuss, say, the kind flat we will get, say, a 3-bedroom. Say, we go put our mama for the first bedroom, then we'll get boys quarters, we'll be twin boys quarters, we'll put my brothers there, I go get studio and study, then me and her go share one. No, we don't already plan our life. In short, I was ready. I told myself, this
don't
is
spend
where
the money finish.
No, not because I don't spend and finish. Now the change of the money now they spend now. So the spending of the money now and the OGs. You know, so for my mind, I was like, I'm a large cat. And for you to know that I did anything, I don't already bring out, for my mind, I said I could not bring out like 250K, buy motor. You know, I don't know that 250K, they buy motor that time, but me, I don't already plan part of my life. And backstage, that was where I met Sasha for the first time. I was so nervous. And she came backstage and she looked at me and asked me, what's your problem? I said, I can't do this thing. She looked at me, she said, why? I said, I'm nervous. Do you know what I was supposed to do? That's also where I met dance now, the main thing, their Oga. He was the dance master. So I was supposed to dance and sing. So I was giving them Beyonce, One Hot Pants, all those kind of people. And she said, Waje, look at these 4 minutes as the last 4 minutes of your life and give it your all. So I had written a song called Kolo, and a producer in South Africa produced it. Cobams was our mentor, and that was the song I was going to perform. And I performed the song. It's on YouTube, actually. I think I did relatively well. I know I pushed myself because it was not a safe space for me. As far as I'm concerned, I should have won that thing. But at the end of the day, you always know that God always has a plan for different people. And Durella won. I came first runner-up, and Kaha came after us. That day, me and my daughter, we cried there because it was the winner takes it all type of situation. So there was no compensation. So there was no, oh yeah, as you don't win this one, take this one.
No 250,000 for car.
No, nothing. No, winner takes it all. But did I win something? Yes. Those experiences are the things that I am now. I put it in my CV that I have a Wycliffe just because of that experience where he brought me on stage to perform with him. That was something. Do you understand? There are people that have won different awards, but they've not had that kind of opportunity. You understand what I'm saying? From there, doors started opening. I now met a saxophonist who was doing a concert, and Kenny G was performing. Kenny G was headlining the concert, and he was like, okay, we want you to open for Kenny G, and the story just keeps going on and on like that. Now, why I never signed to a record label after Dome Records was because I was signed to Dome Records for a while. At the time, For a Minute came out, it was about 28 or 27, I think. And that was almost 10 years after, you understand, almost 10 years with Dome Records, because For a Minute came out with Dome Records. So I just felt that it was sort of like a bittersweet separation for us, but I just felt that it was time for me to, when there's a hunger in your mind that you know that this thing, you have to do it by yourself, even though you do not know what you're doing. You understand? Because I just kind of felt that over time, I felt we could have achieved more, but unfortunately, the structures and the things that we wanted in place were not there. So I needed to go on the journey by myself to discover myself, because it just seemed like our languages were different. And every time a record label came to me to tell me, oh, we want to sign you, I would ask the questions that I felt I didn't ask in my first ask my first record label. And every time they couldn't answer me, I just said I wasn't going to do it. When Chocolate City wanted to sign me at some point, and I was like, okay, game. And then when we sat in the meeting, and I said, okay, what exactly? Because by then I now understood that every money is borrowed money. It's not a gift. You are not entitled to it. It's borrowed money. So no matter if they give you car allowance or house allowance or what,
you pay back.
Yes. So I was not asking. I said, based on this borrowed money, how much is going to be invested in my music? And that, to me, that was what I really wanted to know. Because at the time, I was able to afford an apartment for myself. At the time, I don't drive one kind small CRV like that. Of course, I had long throat. I wanted Benz and all those things. But my mind was like, okay, so what is the plan for my music? How much is going to be invested in my music? And people never really gave me a definite answer. And I just felt it's a trap, because at the end of the day, you sign to record labels and they don't do the work. You do all the work.
What songs were out about this period?
About this period, I Wish wasn't out.
I wish you again.
No, I think at the time the only thing because I Wish came out in 2013. It leaked, and then we now had to release it.
Okay.
So at this time, my first album wasn't out. It was For a Minute. It was So Inspired. It was Somewhere. And Now the Way, I think Now the Way had come out because Now the Way was with Jay Martins, and Now the Way was also powered by my record label Dome Records at the time, you know. So the songs that really didn't have videos at the time were the ones that you understand. And because I had great relationship with people, for some reason I just had favor with people like Clarence, you know. There were people that they supported my career. So for them, it wasn't if she's signed to a record label or she's not. Waje, we like this song. What are you doing with the video? How are you pushing it? Where can we come in? You know, and that was the kind of relationship I had with Clarence. That was the kind of relationship I had with Jay Martins. You know, and the list is endless. You know, Ill Bliss. There are so many of them. So at the time, because of these people, I realized I really wasn't lacking anything that I would, so to say, lack
Need a record label.
needing a record label outside media strength. And then you had, it's not now that, you know, everything has gone digital. Then you still had to go and do your interviews by yourself. You still had to introduce yourself to the media. You still, you know, one of the biggest things that my record label did for me was when we released So Inspired, the way he introduced me to not So Inspired, Kolo. The way he introduced me to the media was through Auntie Kenny Sten Brown. We had like a press conference at Planet One. So anyone who didn't know Waje in the media space was invited there, and I got introduced to them because remember I wasn't living in Lagos. I had just arrived in Lagos. I was still trying to find my feet, you know, and then we had that, and that kind of gave me a bed to now build my career on. But it also made me understand the right questions to ask when collaborating with people, record labels, distribution networks, and all of that. So yeah, pretty much my story in a nutshell.
I just want to ask my favorite Waje song. Like, let's just fast forward a bit. The one with MI. How did that come about?
Yeah.
₦1.
So Emma and I met in Enugu a long time ago. But, you know, I've always heard about him, and Noble Igwe is a very close friend of mine. So because Noble Igwe managed me at some point, actually OAM managed me, 360, the 360 holding company managed me at some point. And they were trying to get me to, work with producers who could push me, you know. So he introduced me. Every day, me and Noble will drive to MI's house. And if you know how MI works, the day where you go to MI house, feed not be the day where you go walk. So it was constant going and constant going. One day he just said, "How about you have a song that I want you to voice with me?" And he played the song for me. When he played it, I fell in love with it immediately. I wrote the first chorus, and I played it for him, and he was like, no, he doesn't like it. I wrote another one. He said, no, that's... He now asked me, he said, I should think about somebody that I truly love. I sat down, and the only person that came to my mind at that point was my mom. So those words were written out of my love for my mother. Yeah. So it wasn't a guy that I was singing to. I was singing to my mom. Because at the time, my mom moved to Lagos because she wanted to give us a better life. She was living in all of us were living in a one-room situation. She was getting a job that wasn't worth it, but she was just doing the job to make ends meet, you know. And why my mom lost her job is because she had a daughter who got pregnant because she was working in a Christian school.
And we did they sing out together that time. We say, well, we don't sing that for your mom.
I said people come to talk, say me and Emma they date. I say,
yeah, this was about 2009, 10, 2010. Eh? This was about 2010.
Yes, which wasn't so long. I think I moved to Lagos 2010. 7 or 8. Oh no, 20. Yeah, but 27 or 28. I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. But yeah.
So what about that period of I wish when you now give them a lot of the there was an outfit that made it seem like you were not wearing clothes. And I know that one to now hit blogs and everything. That was part of the blowing story.
So by then, my eye had teared. My eye had teared like this. And I realized that Nigerians liked controversy, right?
Yeah.
And I was just thinking of, by then I had engaged the services of a publicist, Omar Are. And the first time Omar,
my mentor.
Yeah, shout out to Omar. The first time Omar had a meeting with me, one of the reasons why I went with her was because I had never met anyone who was a woman in the entertainment space that wasn't a musician, but more like in the either management or PR setting, that understood my body of how I wanted to separate myself from the bandwagon. You understand? So because she understood it, she would suggest things, right, in terms of sound. It was almost like Oma was handling PR, but she was also doing like brand management, more like really. So I wish leaked. The person who was managing me at the time was Michael, and I was in when it leaked, and Michael just called me and says, "You know what, Waje, we need to release this song." I didn't have the money, we didn't know what to do, but we just said, "You know what, we'll find a way." Michael is such a street runner, so he understood the concept of, moving and all of that. Godwin Tom was a consultant. I don't know if Godwin Tom has started consulting for us at the time. I can't really remember. But Michael was my manager. And then we had a conversation with Clarence. And Clarence said, "Okay, let's shoot the video." We decided to shoot the video. And Clarence was the one who came up with the idea. He said, "You know, Waje, this song, when I listen to it, all I can see is your vulnerability. How are you going to pass that across on screen?" And we come crackhead. So it wasn't something that was even in the mood board before so it wasn't like premeditated. Do you understand? We cracked it, and he was not like, because I had these leotards, like body magic type of situation, corset type of situation that you wear inside but to make your tummy flat. So he was not like, "Okay, so just wear the leotards, sit down." I bought this very heavy neck piece that I brought that I had no intention of using, because the person who was styling me, it wasn't part of our mood board, but I just carried it anyway. Next thing he says, "Get that thing, put it on her neck." They say, "Tie her a turban." So it wasn't part of our script, but it just kind of worked. You understand? So when we did it and we shot it, Omar went to work immediately. Omar was like, "Okay, so how are we going to interpret this? This is vulnerable. This is showing you in a different way. People have never, you're always so inspired, or you're either glowing somewhere, or people have never really seen, you have never really seen the soft side of you, you understand? So why don't you?" And so for that, and understanding caption and people and controversy, she captioned the Waje bears it all. Of course, when you now watch the video, you will now see what I bet.
Watch the bed. So later that year came the Waje album, the debut album, gave us great singles, Onye, No Be You. After that, over the years, more singles, Omini Nowes, the single with Diamond Platinums. So, of course, I know a lot of people that are watching this want to know what that whole, are you talking about that whole thing last year with you crying on video and talking about the rough times?
Are you really retired?
That's a story that you're telling. Waje no go retire. Waje will continue singing. No,
I really quit music.
Waje no go leave music.
So,
are you leaving music?
No, I can't leave music. I can't leave music. But, at the time that, and this is what I tell people, at the time that video came out, what people saw was clips that media had cut out a vlog. So that means I was aware that I was being shot. So it's not like somebody was asked, I say, okay, we're just having a serious conversation. Oh yeah, let's go. In case she will spill something, then as Aproko progressive, where we be, we will come post that on Instagram or post on Twitter. You understand? So over the years, right, I have struggled with as a musician, as a creative, isn't conceptualizing things. It's always been execution. That was why last year was one of my biggest years, because more than anything, I felt I did more as a musician than I had done. Of course, we've had wins. I've performed in the biggest stages. I've met great people. I'm connected, great presidents. I've been front of past presidents. Like, I've been at royal places where people sort of pray that, you know what I mean? There's something like when a brand or a company has, at the beginning of the year, you have a concept, you dream something, and you guys see it to the fullest. That has always been sort of like a problem. So during Omni No West, the era of Omni No West and all of that, there were plans, but they weren't always fully executed, right? And I think because even while I was discovering myself as a human being, my management as well, they were discovering. So everybody, they use each other learn.
Everybody discover each other.
You understand? Everybody, they use each other learn. You understand? I even remember there was a time that there was a fight where not like, you know what, I know they do again. Even one man said, you know what, Waje, I can't keep up. This is not what I'm here for. I'm not doing. And the reason why was because we kept on going back and forth. We have a dream and say, this is how we want to do it. But if there was, I really don't want to burn any bridge or anything like that. But, understanding what it means to have a team, right? When you start a business, it doesn't mean you have the money to execute or produce the product that you have, but you have to get the money. It works every way, in every industry, whether it's musical, whether it's movie. Hardly will you see somebody that will come and meet you and tell you, oh, I just have 100 million sleeping somewhere, but I don't know what to use the 100 million to do. You understand? It's about conceptualizing and executing to the point that product is now, you not turn that dream into physical product. And the thing about it is, I am the product in itself. So it wasn't that much of, it shouldn't have been that much of a big deal, but I just think we didn't even understand the communication or what the brand was representing to now know how to sell. Do you understand? So in all that time, what we ended up doing was confusing our fans, our following, and even people that we wanted to partner with. All we just ended up doing was confusing them. So half the time when we had ideas, it was difficult to sell these ideas because they will look at the brand and they will look at the ideas and they don't see where it marries.
The connection.
Right? Yeah, they don't see the connection. And I can say this now because now I go to these same brands and they are the same brands I'm working with now because I now have a proper understanding. So even with my management, you get the one where my management will tell me, I will say, no, not be so, not be there. See the language, because the only thing that we faltered at was communication. We just didn't know how to communicate properly what we felt in our hearts, right? So all that I already knew, and I was at a bad place because I didn't think my management knew what it was doing, and so we both decided that, you know what, it's time to part ways, right? So I'm here. I'm doing tumbo with different managers. This one work with me today. That one work with me tomorrow. That one work with me next tomorrow. And it was just so Bookie HQ say handling my PR, but I was not thinking, this PR business, what am I using it for? It's not like this content. So I had gotten to that point where I was done with music. I said, you know what, music, you have tried for me, but maybe I should go and do something else. So I even came out with the concept of Waje Chin Chin. I'd already given design person that will go and do the packaging,
the
packaging for me. Oh yeah, I said
you like the chin chin business, man.
I love that.
Because I had a story that I was going to use to sell it. By the time I tell them, oh, I saw Chin Chin in the days of, they will not say, she has experience. Do you understand? So I had already started thinking of ways to leave music, and not necessarily leave completely, but leave before people start to clap, follow you, say, Auntie, what did they do for this place?
What are you still doing here?
Thank you. So that was my mindset. But 2018, I met a young lady called Fatima at my friend's birthday dinner. And Fatima, while all of us were seated, Fatima was like, Waje, all this song you are just releasing now, we don't like it. Usually when people tell me things like that, I just feel like they don't have an understanding of anything. You know, it's easy for people to just sit down and say, oh, we don't like this thing, we don't like this song. So me, I don't pay attention to them. But if you are a fan, I indulge you and listen and then defend myself if I have to. I can owe anyone any explanation, but sometimes you really have to carry people through. You understand? So she said that, no, she just felt that, like, she now gave me a story of how 1 Naira was a part of her story with her husband. You know, and then I started meeting people that would tell me, oh, Waje, this song, at the time you sang it, this is how I was feeling. I'll get emails about mounting. So it was as if all of a sudden there was a button that everybody now remembered that, oh, there's a Waje in the industry. This is the song that she did that did this for me, did that for me.
Yeah.
So Fatima told me, she said, I'm a project manager. Please release an album. I'll help you with the project. I said, okay, there's this album I've been working on for 3 years or more. I'm done with this album. And if you are serious, then project manage it. Let's release it. And that's how we released Red Velvet.
Red Velvet.
You understand? So at that point, when we released Red Velvet, it didn't get the sort of attention that I wanted, but it started a conversation. So when he started that conversation, I sat down and thought about it. So that whole process got me and Fatima close. And I asked him, I said, okay, you know what? And then my manager, Gonitom was now like, you know what? How about Fatima managing you? You know? And we thought about it. Say, okay, Fatima manage me, but she doesn't know the music industry. What will we do? And I had taken a course not too long ago that told me that made me have confidence in the fact that anybody can manage you as long as the person just has management skills. It doesn't matter whether the person understands the industry. It's about a certain skill, and then they now desire to understand that terrain. You get? So I now said, you know what? Let me have a conversation with her. So we had meetings and conversations. Of course, now, you know, when some people want to come out, when she sees this thing now, she will curse me, but don't you back. You know, the first day she came to do presentation, she gave me, I see the reason why things she said, living above your brain, indeed, they gave me full English for my mind. I said, no worry, that management, when you stay
English go finish for your mouth, they wait.
English, you see they speak for them.
You got me so happy, I had to tell you to sit down. What is it that you wrote down?
All the English right there, your mouth go come out, because then you go no entertainment industry, not be business, not be banking. And so when she was talking, I was just looking at her that it was my dining table. So you know, she did. She even typed everything and printed it out in my mind. I said, this girl is ready.
Efficient.
She then said she wanted to come as a consultant. Me, I knew that I didn't want a consultant. So from the beginning, as she said it, I nipped it. I said, like, this is what I want. I want a manager. And I want a manager that will build a structure, because I wanted a situation where my manager is faceless. So tomorrow, if we build a structure and tomorrow another person comes on board, you follow that structure. Because the intention is for me at some point to use that same structure for other people. Because management is something that I've lacked over time because of execution. What is your manager's job? Literally to manage the product from production to consumer aspect of it. Do you understand? It's only glorified houseboys that think that management is to be helping you with your social media page and all those things. And then
glorified houseboys. Why you come down now? Glorified houseboys.
It's the truth now, because they don't do the job. Like I see, there are some artists that I see and I am paying for them because you know that this artist has potential, and you know that they are hungry and they are willing to work. But as long as you are not the record label, you are the manager. Your job is to manage the products.
Yeah, for sure.
So the product is in managing the time, managing their time, managing everything, even down to expectations. Like, do you know how many unofficial managers I have? I have my unofficial manager, Taya. You get the one who will go talk. I go, Taya go boss me, say, what do you have? Where's the next song? I say, unofficial. I go, let me say, unofficial too. We go, gist. You understand? Because the truth is, it's a lot of work. And you know that we artists are temperamental. And this morning, today we are happy. Tomorrow we are sad. Next tomorrow we are depressed. Next tomorrow we are Christians. Next we are Buddhists. We are everything. You know. So at the time, when Fatima and I had agreed, we had passed that interview stage. I went and had a meeting with her, and she said she found out that one of the reasons why my career kind of went the way it went was because I had left my fans behind. So it's a situation of where, if let's take a product, for example, let's say cooking cube, right? Now, for people that love cooking with seasoning, right? The first time you come out with a cooking cube and they love it, they become your fans instantly. Now, if you want to improve on that cooking cube, you understand, and maybe change the size or the color or add it or give them a different flavor. Maybe the first cooking cube now chicken one, then you now want to add the jollof rice type, or you want to save the bottom pot type or something. You don't lose the ones that started loving the cubes before. You bring them along, but also try and introduce yourself to a newer market. But over time, I had neglected the people that 1 Naira was part of their lives. Kolo was part of their life. So Inspired, Mountain was part of their life. Ijoma, Onye, Grind. I was now looking for an audience that even didn't know anything about me, understanding that demographics are different, have changed. Time has changed. Do you understand? So when she started telling me that, she now said, so let them see you. Let people know your truth and fall in love with you and show them the reason why they fell in love with you before. Because when you started as a musician, you didn't even have all these things that you have now. At the time that I came out with For a Minute, I was squatting. So all that house where they found saying poor boys, how they look, they on a video. Do you understand what I'm saying? So she was now like, let them know why remind them of why they fell in love with you before, and then take them back as your fans while you introduce yourself to a new network, to a new audience. And that's how we now said, let's try this vlog. So our litmus test was Will Smith. One day, Will Smith was the olden days Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, No Better Work. The anytime when you hear Will Smith, the only thing where you think of him now, all those things, old movies, all that. No, you understand? And then in one day he becomes this social media guru. Yeah, do you understand? And then there was another person that we used as litmus test as well. I can't remember his name, but one guy who started a vlog. His ratings were so much. He had a great audience. And then one time he went to this haunted forest where you see where people are rumored to die or something like this. And I think he showed a dead body on screen or something like that. And
one of those YouTube guys.
Yeah, YouTube guys, and lost his endorsement, lost everything. And how did he come back into people's hearts? He just said, okay, I'm doing this thing. And said, people started following. He started getting people to follow him again. So I said, you know what? Let me speak my truth. Let me tell people where my mind is. Let me be honest. Let me not do, moreover, what I'm going through is what 70% of the entertainment industry is going through, but they will be lying. So let me just speak for them, since they don't want to speak, So that's how we started the vlog. And our goal was to carry everybody through that pain stage to a point where I'm doing my concert. And it worked because I realized that even if I didn't have faith in myself, people's reaction to that video shocked me. There were people that were so upset, like, Waje, I played you 100 times on radio. How dare you? Like, I'm so disappointed because it was out of my conviction for your brand that I even played your music, not because I am employed as a media person. Do you understand what I mean? So I started hearing these things from people in the media space. I started hearing these things I started reading it on Twitter from fans that were, and then you see, oh my God, the messages I got. I'll get prayers, I'll get people praying for me, I'll get people begging me like, Waje, you cannot leave. At some point, they started talking about GoFundMe, and I was like, if people can truly love me this much, then why am I saying I'm quitting? Instead, I should find ways to evolve and, you understand, keep evolving. So I keep carrying them along, which is the space that I'm in now. So that was really the story behind it too. But of course, you know, some media vlogs will cut the parts and they say somebody was videoing me in one room and Waje was depressed.
So
really, that was the story behind it.
So about and the video came after the concert, Abi. Concert don't go before this video dropped. Before that,
no, the video dropped last 2 years ago. No, the video dropped last year January, Abi February. Concert was in September last year.
The video of you crying that you're quitting music.
Yeah, it was January last year.
When it trended, when it trended and when it went viral, was it January?
I can't remember.
Or March or something, Sha. It was early last year, Sha. It was early last year.
Okay. Okay.
It was early
I don't know why
year.
I remembered it sometime later.
No, it was early last year because it was based on the trend that we decided, okay, let's do this concert. And when we decided to do this concert, initially we decided that it would be small. We said let it be like 200 people. But, you know, it kept increasing. We started seeing people's reactions and people would be like, Waje, we'll come for your concert. When is the concert? And so we now did our concert and it was sold out. And I was like,
so did you do that? Did the concert remind the old fans that Waje still do this for you while also bringing new fans?
Absolutely. It was such a vibe. It was such a vibe. It was such a vibe. I remember there was a segment of it where DJ Neptunes was playing and he would ask them, if you're actually a Waje fan, do you remember this song? And he would play old songs. And the way people were singing these songs, like, in my mind, I was like, hey, see, Waje told Mike Jackson, you know, don't dare, I dare you to contest me. And then One Naira now started playing. And a friend of mine, Latasha was right in front, and Latasha had tears in her eyes. And I'll look at Noble had tears in his eyes. Auntie Kate, like it was overwhelming. I now realized that I had people who were my soldiers, who had always loved my music. But I also feel that one of the mistakes that we make as musicians is that we don't document these things. We don't document our story. So for each dispensation, we don't teach people why. True. The other day I was listening to Sting and I remembered how I got to know Sting. Sting? Are you telling me about Sting? Or you want to tell me the day do you understand? Or the day I met Lauryn Hill and I was crying, like better cry, and she was shaking me. I didn't meet Lauryn Hill now, pray and not tell me that. I start to pray for her. Instead of me to tell her, say, I'm such a fan, I start to pray. I say, you will never see it like my real prayer. That's how overwhelmed I was. I was shaking to the point that I went into prayer. I was like, you will never lack anything. God will open my doors. And I thought I was sitting next to her. I thought I was probably was looking at me like, this chick is weird. I swear. Do you understand? And then one of her vocalist, one of her backup singers, who is a Nigerian but lives in Philadelphia, I think. Then you know that one was telling me like, oh Waje, honestly, we listen to your song at rehearsals, and I'm like, which Waje? This one? Are you? So these are creatives are so short-sighted. And that's why if you do not have the right team, I'm sorry, that's what happens to all the great people that you hear about. That's what happens to them. It's really not about them. It's really about the team that they have. Because if you do not have the right team, you will be so short-sighted and dwell in that myopic small space that you can't see the greatness beyond that. You understand that point that you got into. Every time you see an artist break or pass through or break a boundary or something, like, go pass through a wall, it's because they've been exposed to something different from what they know, and they see what it do, and then they push through that point, and then it sets precedence for another one and keeps setting precedence. You know what I mean? So that's really what makes entertainment what it is, because the desire is to grow past your demographic in terms of your sphere of contact. Like me now, I not go on be Lagos champion or Nigerian champion. I go Africa, I go like if they perform abroad, people go to hear me, people go to sing back to myself. And even if they don't sing, I love reintroducing myself. One time I went to LA to perform, and I was with people like Jordan Sparks and the rest of them. The outfit I was wearing was by Idro Emostafe.
Yeah, one show was black women or so, sometime 2014.
Yeah, yes. So when I got to the red carpet, right, they were interviewing all the big stars. Nobody could interview me. Thank God for one Ghanaian, a busy Ghanaian or Jamaican TV station. They said, I think it was Jamaica. So you're a Jamaican, you're a black sister like us. They could start to speak patois for me. I tried. Do small interview. That's the only person that interviewed me. They treated me well. They gave me my green room, everything. I sat down. The good thing was I insisted that I was going to play with a band. So, and it was at the theater. It was a big event. And so my band was waiting. We had rehearsed, blah, blah. And then it was time for me to perform. And I performed. By the time I was done, the after party, I was now the nightingale of the ceremony. The host of the event kept on saying, "Oh yes," and then when I saw her, I knew that the woman has started using me to make guy.
She's gone the farms you.
The farms.
You understand? And everybody wanted to take a picture. One lady now came to say, "When I saw you, I was like, with what you're wearing, girl, what she gonna do?" But I don't mind introducing myself
People
to.
I saw you for red carpet.
That's the way of the world.
But you know the truth, I really don't mind, because the joy is seeing the faces of people who didn't think I could do it, because I'm kind of unassuming. So you just see me and say, what's this one going to sing? She's not like she has Beyonce's body, or she, So I enjoy it. For me, that is my prize. My prize is when I stand and I hold you spellbound to the point that you may not even be able to clap. I don't mind that. You understand? But the thing is, I'm beginning to understand the value of carrying my fans along. So I'm hoping that in the next phase of my career, I'm able to do the things that I couldn't do in the last decade.
Gracias. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well.
Are we good with time and stuff?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Any plans post-COVID? Final question.
Any plans for
Post-COVID, after COVID now? After COVID-19?
Many plans. There was something unimaginably grand that we were working on that has never been done in this country that I'm not still going to see. I would just say, just watch.
I mean, give us clue now. Give us clue. Small clue.
When the time comes, I'll give you a clue. So I'm still working, and I'm hoping that it will be able to still execute. I really hope that COVID will give us. But if not, shall this plan A, plan B, and C. So we'll move.
All right. Thank you very much, Waje.
Thank you, Waje.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the Whole Truth Stay Home edition.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.